Ready to live life without limits? I want to ask you a question you may never have honestly stopped to answer. How many times have you said, "Everything's fine," when inside you were shattered? How many times have you smiled at the world while crying in the bathroom? How many times have you shrunk yourself to fit into the space someone else decided was your place? Enough is enough, woman. Enough carrying pain that isn't yours. Enough diminishing yourself to avoid bothering others. Enough waiting for permission to be who you truly are. This story isn't just a story, it's a mirror. And maybe you'll see yourself in it in a way you never imagined. I'm going to tell you about a woman who one day woke up and realized she had spent years living the life others had designed for her. And you know what she did? She said, "Enough is enough. Enough is." And from that day on, everything changed. If you feel it's your time to stop surviving and start truly living, come with me. This journey is about freedom, about healing, about finding yourself again. Take a deep breath, and let's begin. The acknowledgement of pain. She woke up that morning as she always did, tired. It wasn't just her body, it was her soul. You know that tiredness that doesn't go away with sleep, that weight you carry even when no one is watching. That was it. She looked in the mirror and almost didn't recognize herself. When had she stopped shining? When had that girl full of dreams become this woman who only obeys, who only endures, who only swallows her tears? And then came the question that would change everything. How much longer am I going to pretend that everything is okay? In that second, something inside her cracked. And you know what happens when we crack? The light begins to enter. The truth that sets free. The truth is that she was afraid. Afraid of disappointing, afraid of being called selfish, afraid of being too much or too little. So she learned to mold herself. She became a chameleon. She changed color depending on who was looking. With her family, she was the perfect daughter. With her partner, she was the understanding woman who never complained. With her friends, the strong one who solved everything. But alone, she was a puzzle without pieces. And that day, looking at her own blurry image in the foggy bathroom mirror, she understood. I've spent my whole life being who others needed me to be, and I forgot to ask who I am. The confrontation with fears. That's when the fear truly appeared. That fear that whispers, what if you change and nobody likes the new version? What if you are yourself and discover that it's not enough? What if you let your voice out and nobody wants to hear it? She felt her legs tremble. She felt her chest tighten. For a moment, she almost went back, almost put the mask back on. But something inside her, perhaps the girl she once was, screamed louder, "Enough! Enough of being afraid to be who I am. Enough of apologizing for existing. Enough of hiding to fit in." And for the first time in years, she didn't stifle that scream. She let it echo, the emotional turning point. At that moment, tears streamed down her face, but they weren't tears of weakness, they were tears of liberation. Each drop that fell carried away a piece of the invisible chains she carried. Chains of, you have to, you should. A real woman doesn't do that. She cried for the time wasted pretending. She cried for the times she silenced her pain so as not to bother anyone. She cried for the nights she slept, suffocated by the silence she herself chose. But in the midst of the crying, something changed. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Anger, a holy anger. An anger that doesn't destroy, but rebuilds. Anger at having let so much time pass. And this anger became fuel, liberation and affirmation. She wiped away her tears, looked in the mirror again, and this time she didn't look away. She looked deep, and she spoke aloud, as if making an oath. Enough is enough. I am more than my pain. I am more than my scars. I am more than the roles they gave me. I didn't come into this world to be small. I came to live. And you know what happened? The mirror didn't change, but her gaze did. Because freedom isn't about changing the world around you first. It's about changing the world inside you. It's about deciding that you will no longer betray yourself to please anyone. It's about honoring who you are, even if it bothers those who are used to you being silenced. Natural invitation. And that was just the first step, because awakening is a journey, not a moment. She still had a long way to go. She had chains to break. She had voices to silence. She had an identity to rebuild. But now she knew one thing. She wasn't going back, because a woman who truly awakens doesn't go back to sleep. If you saw yourself in this story, if you felt something stir inside you, I have news for you. You're ready too. Comment, "Enough is enough," if you've decided your time has come. And stay with me in the next chapter. Liberation is just beginning. Your best version is here. Recognition of pain. She thought that first morning would change everything, but the next day came and the chains were still there. You know what invisible chains are? They're the ones nobody sees, but you feel every single day. You should be grateful. Don't complain, others have it worse. A real woman doesn't act like that. Every phrase she heard became a lock. Every judgment became a weight, and she carried it all, silent, because she learned that her pain didn't matter, that speaking up was being dramatic, that wanting more was being ungrateful. But that morning, looking at those invisible chains, she asked, who gave them permission to bind me? The truth that sets free. The truth hit her like a wave. She had been her own jailer. Every time she silenced her voice to keep the peace. Every time she made herself smaller so others could shine. Every time she said, "I'm fine," when she was breaking inside. She had locked herself up. Not because she was weak, but because she was taught that a woman's love is measured by how much she sacrifices, how much she endures, how much she disappears. And right there, with her heart pounding, she understood, self-sacrifice isn't love, it's self-betrayal, and I've been betraying myself for years. The lock started to crack. Confrontation with fears. But breaking free terrified her, because these chains, they were familiar, comfortable even. She knew how to live with them. What she didn't know was how to live without them. What if I speak up and they leave me? What if I shine and they call me selfish? What if I take up space and they say I'm too much? The fear whispered lies. Better to stay small and safe than risk being alone. Her hands trembled, reaching for the first chain. Part of her wanted to stop, to go back to pretending, to go back to the version everyone was comfortable with. But another part, stronger, whispered back, enough. I'd rather be alone and free than surrounded and imprisoned. The emotional turning point. That's when rage showed up. Not the destructive kind, but the holy kind. The kind that says, no more. She was angry at everyone who made her believe she needed permission to exist fully. Angry at the voices that told her dreams were selfish. Angry at herself for believing it for so long. And in that anger, she found something she'd lost. Her fire. The fire that once made her fearless. The fire that made her believe she could do anything. They didn't put that fire out, she realized. She buried it trying to be acceptable. But fire doesn't die. It waits. And hers had been waiting for this moment. For her to stop asking permission and start taking what's hers. Her life, liberation and affirmation. She grabbed the first invisible chain and pulled. It hurt. God, it hurt. Because breaking free always does at first. People got uncomfortable. You've changed. You're not yourself anymore. And she almost believed them, almost went back. Until she realized they were right. She had changed. She wasn't the doormat anymore. Wasn't the yes woman. Wasn't the one who swallowed her pain to make everyone comfortable. And you know what? That wasn't her losing herself. That was her finding herself. She looked up and declared, "I'm done shrinking, done apologizing for breathing, done living half a life because my full life intimidates you. I'm here now, all of me, and I'm not going back." Natural invitation, one chain down, many more to go, because liberation isn't a single moment, it's a daily choice. Some days she'd still hear the old voices, still feel the pull to go back to being small. But now she knew the truth. She was never meant to be caged. You weren't either. If this chapter shook something loose in you, if you felt your own chains rattling, comment "I'm breaking free" below. And stay with me for the next chapter, because what comes next? That's when she discovers the voice she'd forgotten she had. And trust me, when a woman finds her voice again, the whole world has to listen. Ready? Recognition of pain. She couldn't remember the last time she'd spoken her truth out loud. Not the polite version, not the edited one, the raw, unfiltered truth. Somewhere along the way, she'd learned that her voice was too much, too loud, too honest, too intense. So she learned to whisper, to soften, to shrink her words until they fit into spaces people were comfortable with. But here's what happens when you silence yourself for too long. You forget what your real voice even sounds like. You forget you had a voice. That morning, staring at the broken chains at her feet, she realized something terrifying. She didn't know how to speak anymore. Not really. Not her truth. The truth that sets free. The truth was brutal. Every time she swallowed her words, she swallowed a piece of herself. Every "it's fine" when it wasn't. Every "I don't mind" when she did. Every silence when she should have screamed. She'd been erasing herself, word by word, year by year. And the worst part, she did it to herself. Nobody put tape over her mouth. She did, because speaking up meant conflict, meant disappointing people, meant being called difficult, emotional, too sensitive. So she chose peace over truth, acceptance over authenticity. But that day, looking at her reflection, she understood. A voice that only says what others want to hear isn't a voice, it's an echo. And I'm done being an echo of other people's expectations. Confrontation with fears. She tried to speak, opened her mouth, nothing came out. The fear was paralyzing. What if her voice cracked? What if people laughed? What if she said the wrong thing? What if her truth made people uncomfortable, angry, distant? What if after all these years of silence, her voice didn't matter anymore? The fear wrapped around her throat like hands. But then she remembered something. Every woman who ever changed anything started exactly here. Scared, doubting, throat tight. But they spoke anyway, and their voices became thunder. She closed her eyes, felt her heartbeat, and made a decision. Even if my voice shakes, I'm going to use it. Even if nobody listens, I'm going to speak. Because my truth deserves to be heard by me, if nobody else. The emotional turning point. The first word came out broken, barely a whisper, but it came. No. Just that. One word. And the world didn't end. Lightning didn't strike. People didn't disappear. She said it again, louder. No. And then, "I don't want this. I don't agree. This hurts me. I deserve better." Each sentence was a muscle she hadn't used in years, aching as it stretched back to life. Tears came, not from sadness but from relief, because she'd forgotten how powerful it felt to claim her own narrative, to stop performing, to stop pretending. Her voice was rusty, uncertain, trembling, but it was hers. And my God, it felt like breathing after being underwater for years, like coming back to life, like coming home to herself. Liberation and affirmation. She started speaking her truth everywhere, not aggressively but firmly, not to hurt but to honor herself. When someone crossed a boundary, "That doesn't work for me." When someone dismissed her feelings, "My emotions are valid." When someone expected her to shrink, "I'm taking up the space I deserve." And you know what happened? Some people got uncomfortable, called her changed, difficult, not the same. and she realized they were uncomfortable because they'd benefited from her silence. They'd gotten comfortable with a version of her that didn't challenge them, but she wasn't here to be comfortable furniture in other people's lives. She was here to live, to speak, to exist fully. And if her voice intimidated them, that said more about them than about her. And they know it. That's why they tried to silence you, but you're remembering now, aren't you, that you have a voice, that it matters, that your truth deserves space. Natural invitation. Her voice was back. Not perfect, not always confident, but authentically hers. And every time she used it, it got stronger. Every boundary she spoke, every truth she claimed, every time she said, "This is who I am," without apology, she became more herself, more whole, more free. Because a woman with a voice is a woman with power. If you're ready to stop whispering and start speaking, comment, "I have a voice," below. Stay with me for chapter 4, because next, she discovers what happens when you look in the broken mirror and finally see yourself clearly, the real you. Not who they said you were, who you actually are. And that changes everything. You coming? Recognition of pain. She stood in front of the mirror again, but this time she really looked. Not the quick glance before leaving. Not the critical scan looking for flaws. She looked at the woman staring back. And here's what broke her. She didn't recognize herself. Not because she'd changed physically, but because she'd been looking at herself through everyone else's eyes for so long. She forgot what she saw. Her mother's voice. "You'd be prettier if you smiled more." Her ex's voice. "You're too emotional." Society's voice. "You're not young enough, thin enough, soft enough, quiet enough." Every voice except her own. The mirror had been broken all along, not the glass, but her vision. She'd been seeing a distorted reflection. Time to shatter it and see the truth. The truth that sets free. The truth landed like a punch. She'd been measuring herself against standards that were never meant for her liberation. They were meant for her containment. Be beautiful, but not threatening. Be successful, but not ambitious. Be strong, but not intimidating. Be confident, but not arrogant. Every standard designed to keep her small, acceptable, manageable. She'd spent years trying to fit into a mold that was designed to break her. And the worst part? She'd internalized those voices so deeply, she couldn't tell which criticisms were theirs and which were hers. But standing there, she made a choice. I'm done looking at myself through their broken lens. I'm going to see myself through my eyes. And maybe, just maybe, I'll finally see the truth. Confrontation with fears, but looking at herself honestly terrified her. Because what if she looked and didn't like what she saw? What if, without all the filters and performances and pretending, she wasn't enough? What if the real her was disappointing? What if she'd been hiding not because of them, but because she was afraid of facing herself? The fear whispered its cruelest lie. Maybe they were right about you. Her hand touched the cold mirror, trembling. Part of her wanted to look away, to go back to the comfortable lies, but she didn't. She looked deeper, past the surface, past the fear, into her own eyes. And she asked the question that would change everything. Who am I when nobody's watching, when nobody's judging, when I strip away every mask? Who am I really? The emotional turning point, and then she saw it. In her own eyes, staring back. Not the perfect woman they wanted, not the broken woman she feared she was, but something else entirely. A warrior. Scarred, yes. Tired, absolutely, but unbroken. Every line on her face was a battle she'd survived. Every tear stain was proof she'd felt deeply. Every imperfection was evidence she'd lived. She wasn't damaged goods. She was a masterpiece in progress. The tears came fast, but this time they were different. She was crying for the years she'd wasted hating what she saw. For the time she'd spent apologizing for existing. For every moment she'd believed the lie that she wasn't enough. But in that crying, something shifted. She wasn't mourning anymore. She was grieving what she'd lost, so she could finally embrace what remained, herself, whole, real, beautifully imperfect. Liberation and affirmation. She touched her reflection and spoke to the woman looking back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I believed them when they said you weren't enough. I'm sorry I tried to change you, hide you, fix you. I'm sorry I abandoned you to make others comfortable, but I'm here now. I see you, and you are magnificent. The mirror didn't lie anymore. She saw her strength in the set of her jaw, her resilience in her eyes, her power in her posture. She saw a woman who'd been broken and chose to rebuild, who'd been silenced and found her voice, who'd been caged and broke free. She declared, I'm not my mistakes, not my trauma, not their opinions. I am the sum of every time I got back up, every time I chose myself, every time I said no more. I am enough. I always was. Natural invitation. The mirror wasn't broken. Her vision was finally clear. And what she saw wasn't a woman who needed fixing. It was a woman who needed freedom. Freedom to be messy, loud, ambitious, soft, strong, vulnerable, powerful, all of it, all at once, without apology. She smiled at her reflection, a real smile for the first time in years, because she finally saw herself the way she deserved to be seen, as human, as worthy, as hers. When's the last time you really looked at yourself? Not to criticize, but to see. If you're ready to break the broken mirror and see your truth, comment, I see me now, below. Stay for chapter 5, because what comes next is the most powerful part. Rising from your own ashes. Becoming who you were, always meant to be. The transformation is almost complete. You ready for this? Recognition of pain. She'd heard the phoenix story 1,000 times, the bird that burns and rises from its ashes, reborn. Beautiful metaphor, right? But here's what they don't tell you. Burning hurts like hell. The transformation everyone celebrates, it's agony. She was in her burning phase. Everything she'd built on lies was crumbling. Relationships that only worked when she was silent were ending. Versions of herself she'd performed for others were dying. And it hurt. She wanted to hold on, to save the old life, even though it was killing her. But you can't rise until you let yourself burn, until you let the old you turn to ash. And she was finally ready to burn, to let it all go, to become ash so something new could emerge. The truth that sets free. The truth she'd been avoiding hit her. She had to grieve the old version of herself. The people pleaser, the silent sufferer, the woman who made herself small. That version had kept her safe, kept her loved, kept her accepted, but she'd also kept her caged. And here's the painful truth, you can't become new while clinging to old. She had to let that version die, had to say goodbye to the comfort of being liked by people who never really knew her. To the safety of staying small, to the version of herself that everyone approved of because she never challenged them. She sat with that grief, let herself mourn, and then, through tears, whispered, "Thank you for protecting me, but I don't need you anymore. It's time to let you go." And she did. Confrontation with fears, but the in-between space was terrifying. She'd let go of who she was, but didn't know who she was becoming. She was ash, formless, undefined, and the fear screamed, what if you burn everything down and nothing rises? What if you destroy your old life and can't build a new one? What if you're not a phoenix, just a woman who set herself on fire? She felt the panic rising, the urge to go back, to rebuild what she'd burned, to apologize and return to familiar chains. But then she remembered, every caterpillar must become soup before it becomes a butterfly. Every seed must break before it becomes a tree. Transformation isn't pretty. It's messy, uncertain, terrifying, but it's necessary. She took a breath and decided, I'm staying in the fire. I'm trusting the burn. The emotional turning point. And then, in the ashes, she felt it. Movement, not external, but internal. Something stirring. Not the old her trying to come back, but something new being born. She felt it in her bones first. A strength she didn't know she had. Then in her heart, a knowing that she was exactly where she needed to be. Then in her spirit, a fire that wasn't destroying her, but refining her. She realized she wasn't breaking, she was breaking open. Every crack was light getting in. Every loss was space for something better. Every ending was a beginning disguised. She'd been so afraid of the burning she hadn't realized the fire wasn't her enemy. It was her midwife, delivering the version of herself she was always meant to become. And oh, she could feel her coming, stronger, freer, unstoppable. Liberation and affirmation. She rose, not all at once, but slowly, deliberately. She rose from the ashes of who she used to be. And the woman who emerged? She was unrecognizable, not because she looked different, but because she carried herself different. Head high, voice strong, boundaries firm. She wasn't performing anymore, wasn't pretending, wasn't shrinking. She was simply, powerfully, unapologetically herself. And you know what? Some people didn't recognize her, didn't like this version, called her changed. And she smiled and said, "You're absolutely right. I'm not who I was. I burned her. And from her ashes, I built someone who won't betray herself to keep you comfortable. This is me. Take it or leave it. Either way, I'm free." And she meant every word, because the phoenix doesn't rise for applause. She rises because she's alive. Natural invitation. She looked back at the ashes one last time, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because every version of her that had to die gave her something: wisdom, strength, clarity, freedom. She'd needed to burn to rise, needed to break to rebuild, needed to lose herself to find herself. And now she was ready to live without limits, to love without losing herself, to shine without apology, to take up space without permission, to be fully, wildly, unapologetically alive. Are you ready to burn? To let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be? If you're in your burning phase or ready to rise, comment, "I'm rising," below. One more chapter left, and it's the most important one: discovering the woman you've always been underneath it all. The final piece. You've come this far. Don't stop now. Recognition of pain. After everything, after all the burning and breaking and rising, she stood still for the first time in years. Really still. And she waited for something to change, for some magical transformation to complete. But nothing happened. She was just her, standing there. And that's when the fear crept in one last time. What if after all of this, I'm still not enough? What if I did all this work and I'm still just me? And then it hit her, the final truth, the one she'd been running from her entire life. She was just her. She'd always been just her. And that was never the problem. The problem was she'd spent her whole life believing that just her wasn't enough, that she needed to become someone else, someone more, when the truth was waiting all along. The truth that sets free. The truth crashed over her like a wave. She'd never been broken. She'd been buried, under expectations, under trauma, under other people's fears and projections, under the weight of trying to be everything except what she already was. The woman she'd been searching for, fighting to become, burning to reveal. She'd been there the whole time, underneath, waiting. That little girl who knew exactly who she was before the world told her she was wrong. She never left. That teenager who had dreams before someone said they were too big. Still there. That young woman who trusted herself before betrayal taught her not to. Still alive inside. She hadn't needed to become someone new. She needed to remember who she'd always been. Before the world, before the pain, before the lies, just her. Confrontation with fears, but accepting that terrified her more than anything else in this journey. Because if she'd always been enough, that meant all the years of trying to fix herself were wasted. All the relationships where she contorted to fit were unnecessary. All the pain she endured to become better was based on a lie. She felt the anger rise. You mean I was always this person, and I just forgot? But underneath the anger was something deeper, grief. Grief for all the time lost, for all the moments she could have been free, but chose the cage instead, for every opportunity she missed because she didn't think she was ready when she'd been ready all along. The tears came hard, but through them, a question emerged. If I was always her, what would she do now? How would she live if she knew the truth from the start? The emotional turning point. And just like that, everything shifted. She stopped asking, who should I become? And started asking, who was I before I learned to hide? She closed her eyes and traveled back, past the heartbreak, past the criticism, past the rejection, back to that moment when she knew herself, when she trusted her gut, when she spoke without rehearsing, when she laughed without checking if it was too loud, when she took up space without apologizing, when she lived without permission. That girl, that woman, she was still here, had always been here, just waiting for the noise to stop so she could be heard again. And in that moment of remembering, something profound happened. She didn't become someone new. She came home, home to herself, to the woman she'd been all along. And oh, it felt like finally exhaling after holding her breath for decades. Liberation and affirmation. She opened her eyes and everything looked different. Not because the world changed, but because she saw clearly now. She didn't need to prove anything, didn't need to earn her worth, didn't need to become worthy. She was. She always had been. Every struggle, every lesson, every burning, it wasn't about creating a new her. It was about removing everything that wasn't her, peeling back the layers, breaking the false identities, until all that remained was the truth. And the truth was simple, powerful, and eternal. She was exactly who she needed to be. Flawed, yes. Imperfect, absolutely. Still learning, always. But enough, worthy, deserving, powerful, just as she was. She spoke it out loud, to the universe, to herself, to every woman listening. I am not who they said I was. I am who I've always been. And she is magnificent. Natural invitation. This is where the story ends and yours begins. Because she's not special. She's not different from you. She's just a woman who decided to stop running from herself and start running toward herself. Who decided that being herself, fully and unapologetically, was worth more than being loved by people who only loved her mask. You have that same woman inside you. Maybe quiet, perhaps, but there, still breathing, still waiting, still knowing exactly who you are beneath everything you've piled on top. The journey isn't about becoming her, it's about remembering her. If you're ready to stop becoming and start being, comment, "This is me" below. You've walked this entire journey. You've broken chains, found your voice, seen yourself clearly, risen from ashes. Now the final step, live as the woman you've always been, free, whole, unapologetically alive. She's been waiting for you. Welcome home.